For more on these economic numbers, I'm now joined by Mr. Jeremy Stevens, China economist of Standard Bank, and Mr. Li Yong, Vice Chairman from China Association of International Trade. Gentlemen, great to have you in the studio. First of all, let's understand these PMI numbers. Chinese official PMI number seems always come above 50, while at the same time, the HSBC is probably reading below 50. How should we understand this dynamic?
Well, I mean, I get that question all the time. There's a lot of speculation about sort of sinister divergence in the numbers, but in reality, the two numbers measure two completely different things. The official number is weighted towards the larger industries. The smaller, the HSBC figure is weighted greater towards the smaller, highly externalized companies. And those are the ones that have really been at the coalface of the financial crisis. They're the ones that have been struggling with falling orders. They're the ones that are struggling most with squeezed margins and finding it more difficult to get access to credit. So the divergence is really just representing two different realities facing two different subcomponents of China's manufacturing sector.
Then should we pay more attention or less attention to any one of these?
I think we should not really pay attention to just one without or ignoring the other one. I think I agree with Jeremy. These two PMIs really depict two different kind of pictures. But if you look at the general economic situation, I would say that probably the official number is more, it will tell us more about the total picture rather than broader picture. Yes, and the HSBC probably is going to tell us the picture of the exporter-ended, and especially small to medium-sized companies. So the two numbers gives us two directions, I think, and probably the smaller one will give us some sort of ideas, for example, what is their current situations are.
Thanks. And we do also have this divergence in different 5 sub-indices. 2 are rising and 3 are declining. Does it mean the economies, different spaces are also experiencing different economic situations, different growth?
I think you should not really look at it that way, but you should look at it in the context of the previous month's performance. So if you look at the previous month's performance, I think all those numbers have been most of the numbers have been improving, I think. But if you look at the PMA number also, and if you look at the past month, and you can have some sort of a conclusion that basically the manufacturing industry has been quite stable, because there are some slight fluctuations, but they have been above 50%.
Jeremy, 2 indices, production and supply delivery time are rising, but new orders, employment and inventory of raw materials stand below 50. How do you read into these?
Exactly the same way. As far as I can tell, the PMI for manufacturing, the official and the HSBC number, are basically moving sideways. They're reflecting a slightly slower normal for China's economy, between 7 and 8% economic growth. Whether they bounce up and down slightly each month compared to the month before is really neither here nor there. New export orders might have increased and people are excited, but in reality, it's been below 50 for the longest stretch since 2005. So you don't want to get too, this is talking about how people feel about the economy, and that's important that you don't get too roped into measuring a single point and actually look at the greater picture.
Yes, sentiment is really important. And we also see a jump of production expectation. So this is expectation. It rose more than 2 points to 50.6. How does this tell about it?
Well, that's exactly it. So it's how you think you're going to feel about how you're going to feel in 12 months' time, right? I mean, it's a difficult number. I looked at the historical, and in March of this year it was at 65. It was at an all-time high, right? So then you had economic slowdown going into Q2. You're probably going to have a continuation of that momentum loss going into the second half of this year. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Yes, it's gone up 2 points, but it's still it's bounced off its historical bottom. It's still below the 60 points that it's been averaging for the last year. So I mean, that number's, as far as I can tell, you've got You know, the Chinese government announcing last week that they're going to sort of clamp capacity for 19 industries. That's going to manifest into this PMI number. It's very unlikely for me to see this change in expectations really altering the trajectory of the manufacturing PMI going forward.
How do you see the prospects, Mr. Lee?
I think this probably because of the recent policies that the central government has staged. For example, the policies to help small to medium-sized companies, the relaxation of the interest rate for loans, and a number of other policies to support the small to micro
companies
and small companies, and all of those, including the tax reform.
Yeah.
And
we're going to talk about it later.
Yes, I think all of those have point to a direction that that the small to medium-sized companies, especially, that they feel more confident.
Yeah,
in
and that will be reflected
prospect.
in an HSBC private survey.
Yes.
Yeah, more or less. Thanks so much, gentlemen. Stay with us. We'll come to you with more questions on the tax reform.